Esteemed members of the Grand Galactic Council, Casvarel announced, his forearms trembling slightly as he adjusted his ceremonial robes. I regret to inform you that our first contact with the species known as humans has been less than optimal. The council chamber erupted in murmurs, the crystalline walls reflecting the concerned whispers of the galaxy's most powerful beings. High Counselor Ra Tech raised one of their sensory appendages, immediately silencing the chamber. Less than optimal Ra Tech's voice boomed through the chamber, each word dripping with barely concealed annoyance. You were supposed to establish diplomatic relations with a primitive species barely capable of reaching their own moon. How difficult could that possibly be? Casvarel cleared his throat, a habit he had unfortunately picked up during his brief stay on Earth. Well, Your Excellence, it seems our initial assessment of their technological capabilities was somewhat flawed. The memory of his first meeting with the humans played vividly in his mind. He had arrived in a grand diplomatic vessel, expecting to find a civilization that would bow in awe at their superior technology. Instead, he found himself face to face with Admiral Sarah Bennett of the United Earth Defense Force, who took one look at his ship and asked if he needed a software update for his outdated propulsion system. You see, Casvarel continued, his secondary hearts beating erratically, when we arrived at their space station to present our terms of surrender and incorporation into the Galactic Alliance, they laughed. What the question came from Council Member Pax Nara, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in confusion. They laughed, Your Excellence. Then their ambassador, a rather intimidating woman named Alexandra Morgan, patted me on the back and said, and I quote, "That's adorable. Would you like some coffee while we discuss why that's not going to happen?" Ra Tech's color shifted to a deep purple of rage. Surely you reminded them of our superior numbers? Our fleet of 10,000 warships. I did, Your Excellence. Casvarel pulled at his collar nervously. Their response was to bring up their historical archives and show me something called World War II, where they fought on multiple fronts across their entire planet. Ambassador Morgan suggested that if we wanted a war, they would be happy to oblige, but recommended we first study something called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The chamber fell silent. Council member Zarkax, known for his military expertise, leaned forward. And what happened when you presented our advanced weaponry? Casvarel's third heart nearly stopped. They offered to help us upgrade it. Apparently they found our plasma cannon designs, and I quote, charmingly retro. Impossible. Ra Tech slammed their appendage against the council table. They are primitives. Their civilization still argues about political ideologies on their global information network. Yes, Your Excellence. But they also have something called memes, which they claim have won more battles than any weapon in their history. I'm still trying to understand the strategic importance of something called a Rickroll. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives from 100 worlds all speaking at once, some demanding immediate military action, others suggesting diplomatic retreat. Through it all, Casvarel stood there, remembering the knowing smirk on Ambassador Morgan's face as she had handed him a cup of coffee. There's one more thing, Casvarel added, his voice barely audible above the commotion. The room gradually quieted, all eyes turning back to him. When I mentioned our intention to demonstrate our power by destroying one of their smaller moons, they offered to sell us tickets to watch. Apparently they have a betting pool on whether our weapons would even scratch the surface of what they call their Level 1 planetary defense systems. Ra Tech's color drained to a pale blue of despair. Level 1. Yes, Your Excellence. Ambassador Morgan mentioned it was cute that we thought they would reveal their actual defensive capabilities to a potential hostile force. She then invited us to, and I quote, find out and around narrator if we were feeling particularly adventurous. The Grand Council chamber's holoscreen flickered to life, displaying the face of Ambassador Alexandra Morgan. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her smile carried the same unsettling confidence that had haunted Casvarel's dreams for the past 3 cycles. Greetings, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, she said, her voice carrying a warmth that somehow made her words even more threatening. I understand you've been discussing our recent diplomatic exchange. I thought it might be helpful if I clarified a few points personally. Ra Tech straightened their posture, attempting to project authority. Ambassador Morgan, your species' defiance of galactic law cannot be tolerated. We demand immediate compliance, or we will be forced to. To what Morgan interrupted, raising an eyebrow. To send another fleet, like the one currently hiding behind your moon, the one with the adorable cloaking technology that our kindergartners cracked last week. The council members exchanged alarmed glances. That fleet was supposed to be undetectable. Oh yes, we know all about that, Morgan continued, taking a sip from her coffee mug. Commander Thomas over at Luna Base 3 has been using their energy signatures as a teaching tool for our junior defense analysts. He says thank you, by the way. It's been very educational. Zarkax rose from his seat, his warrior crests flaring. You dare mock the combined might of the Galactic Council? Our smallest battleship could reduce your cities to ash. Morgan's laugh echoed through the chamber. Could it, though? She pressed a button, and the holoscreen split to show a second feed. Because right now, one of your battleships is trying to intimidate our Pluto defense station. Would you like to see how that's going? The Council watched in horror as their most advanced warship, the Pride of Zarkax, hung motionless in space, wrapped in what appeared to be glowing strings of light. What have you done to my ship? Zarkax demanded. Oh, that Morgan smiled. That's just some surplus containment tech from our research division. The staff at Pluto Station thought it would be more polite than our actual defensive measures. They're quite proud of themselves for handling it without waking up the station's primary AI. Surplus tech? Raw Tech's voice quavered. Indeed, Morgan set down her coffee cup. You see, we humans have a rather unique approach to technological development. While you were busy building bigger ships and flashier weapons, we were asking ourselves, what if we just ignored the laws of physics entirely? The chamber fell silent. That's not possible, one of the junior council members whispered. Really? Morgan raised an eyebrow. Tell that to Dr. Amanda Blackwood over at the Quantum Manipulation Division. She'd love to have that debate. Again. Last time someone told her something was impossible, she accidentally invented a way to knit space-time. The sweater she made is quite lovely. Raw Tech slumped in their chair. What do you want? Morgan looked genuinely surprised. Oh, we don't want anything from you. We were perfectly happy exploring our solar system, making scientific breakthroughs, and posting cat videos on our global information network. You're the ones who showed up demanding our surrender. She leaned forward, her expression becoming serious. But since you're asking, how about we start over? This time without the threats and demands. We humans have a saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Though personally, I never understood why anyone would want to catch flies in the first place. And if we refuse, Zarkax challenged, though his warrior crests had deflated considerably. Morgan shrugged. Then nothing happens. We go back to our research, our cat videos, and occasionally using your ships for target practice when they stray too close. But you should know. Our head of defense has been asking permission to test our new gravity manipulation systems. Something about wanting to turn a gas giant into a disco ball. I've been telling her no, but she's very persistent. Kaz Varal, who had been trying to make himself as small as possible, suddenly found his voice. Ambassador, if I may, what did you mean earlier about level 1 defenses? Oh, that Morgan grinned. That's just what we tell our 5-year-olds so they don't worry about space monsters. Our actual defense systems, she winked. Well, let's just say we hope we never have to find out what they can do. Now, who's ready to discuss actual diplomatic relations? I brought enough coffee for everyone. This is madness, Kazvarl protested, watching as the council prepared their test fleet. We've already seen what they can do. Why are we provoking them further? Raw Tech's sensory appendages twitched with determination. Because, dear Kazvarl, no species can be as advanced as they claim. Their bravado must be a bluff, a carefully orchestrated deception. We will expose their true capabilities with a precise, calculated strike. 3 days later, Kazvarl stood on the observation deck of the Council's flagship, wondering if he should have updated his will before this mission. Below them, Earth's moon glowed serenely against the backdrop of space. Alert the humans that we are conducting routine military exercises, Raw Tech commanded. Nothing threatening, just standard fleet maneuvers. The response came almost immediately. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the bridge, showing a man with salt and pepper hair and a weathered face lined with laugh wrinkles. His uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Defense Force. "This is Admiral James Blackwood," he announced, grinning like someone who had just heard a particularly good joke. "I understand you folks want to play war games? Mind if we join in?" Ra-Tech's color shifted to a confident green. "Admiral Blackwood, we are merely conducting standard fleet maneuvers." "Yes, I got the memo," Blackwood interrupted, checking something off screen. "Tell you what, since you came all this way, how about we make this interesting? My crew's been dying to test our new training protocols." Zarkax, who had insisted on personally commanding this mission, stepped forward. "Training protocols? You dare to treat this as a training exercise?" "Well, what else would it be?" Blackwood's eyes twinkled. "Unless you're actually planning to attack, in which case I should warn you, my first officer just made coffee, and she gets really cranky if she doesn't finish her cup." Before Zarkax could respond, alarms blared across the flagship. "Sir," one of the sensor operators called out, "we're detecting multiple small objects approaching from the lunar surface." Blackwood nodded. "That would be Cadet Squad 7. They're practicing their zero-G maneuvers today. Don't mind them." The council members watched in horror as what appeared to be human teenagers in powered armor suits zipped between their ships, occasionally stopping to take what looked suspiciously like selfies with the alien vessels as backgrounds. "This is an outrage," Zarkax roared. "You send children to mock us." "Mock you?" Blackwood looked offended. "Not at all. They're studying your ship designs. It's part of their ancient technology appreciation course." Ra-Tech's color drained to a pale yellow of disbelief. "Ancient? Now," Blackwood said soothingly. "There's nothing wrong with classic designs. Very robust. Built to last. Speaking of which," he glanced at another screen, "you might want to power down your primary weapons systems. They're showing some concerning power fluctuations." Zarkax slammed his fist on the console. "Enough. Launch the attack squadrons. Show these humans the true might of." He never finished the sentence. Every light on the flagship suddenly turned pink. The mighty engines, capable of pushing the massive vessel through hyperspace, began playing what sounded suspiciously like Earth dance music. "Oh dear," Blackwood sighed. "I should mention that Cadet Lucy Martinez gets a bit creative when she's bored. She probably shouldn't have hacked your systems, but you know how teenagers are with their pranks." "Impossible," the Council's top security expert, Telvac, rushed to a console. "Our cybersecurity is impenetrable. Our quantum encryption is adorable," a young female voice interrupted as another hologram appeared, showing a grinning cadet who couldn't have been more than 16. "But you really should update your firmware. There's a patch for that vulnerability from like 100 years ago." Blackwood cleared his throat. "Cadet Martinez, what have we said about hijacking alien vessels without permission?" "Sorry, sir," she replied, not looking sorry at all. "But their system architecture was practically begging to be improved. I even left them a digital maintenance manual, in 17 languages." By now, half the Council fleet was blasting various Earth music genres, their weapons systems completely offline. The other half appeared to be engaged in what could only be described as an impromptu dance party, their navigation systems locked into synchronized movements. "Don't worry about the light show," Blackwood assured them. "The cadets are just practicing their ship-to-ship coordination. Although he checked a readout, your power cores seem to be running a bit hot. Might want to do something about that." Casvaro watched in fascination as one of their most advanced destroyers spun gracefully through space, trailing sparkles. "Are those space fireworks?" "Oh good," you can see those, Blackwood beamed. "Cadet Martinez was worried the quantum particle effects might not be visible to your species. She'll be so pleased." Ra-Tech, their color now cycling through various shades of distress, finally found their voice. "Admiral Blackwood, what exactly are you trying to prove here?" The Admiral's expression softened. "Prove? Nothing at all. We're just having a friendly exchange of military traditions. By the way, you might want to check your cargo holds. Our maintenance bots got a bit enthusiastic and took the liberty of upgrading some of your more outdated systems. Free of charge." Of course. We believe in good neighborly relations. You upgraded our ship's Zarkax looked like he might faint. Just the critical systems Blackwood assured him. Life support, navigation, safety protocols. Oh, and we took the liberty of installing content filters on your entertainment systems. You wouldn't believe the stuff that gets through on the standard galactic frequencies. Not at all suitable for the younger crew members. The bridge fell silent, except for the continuing beats of Earth music echoing through the halls. Finally, Raw Tech spoke, their voice barely a whisper. Admiral Blackwood, what would have happened if this had been a real attack? Real attack. Blackwood's smile remained friendly, but his eyes turned serious. Let's just say these cadets are part of our remedial training program, the ones who needed extra practice with the basic stuff. He paused. You really don't want to meet our regular forces. The Grand Council's emergency session had been going for 6 hours when Ambassador Priya Patel walked in carrying what appeared to be an enormous pizza box. I heard you skipped lunch, she announced to the startled assembly. And in my experience, no good diplomatic solution ever came from hangry negotiators. Kasviral watched in fascination as the composed diplomat, dressed in an elegant blue sari embroidered with what looked like mathematical equations, began distributing slices of the Earth delicacy to bewildered council members. Ambassador Patel Raw Tech began formally, this is hardly the time for ensuring basic nutritional needs are met during crucial negotiations. Priya raised an eyebrow. I respectfully disagree. Besides, I added extra cheese. Everyone loves cheese. But the Protocols Council member Telvac protested weakly, even as they sniffed curiously at the slice before them. Oh, the protocols, Priya laughed, pulling up a holoscreen. Let's talk about those. Did you know your standard first contact protocols were written by a species that communicates through interpretive dance? That explains so much about the mandatory 7-hour greeting ceremony. Several council members choked on their pizza. You mean we've been Kasviral's secondary hearts skipped a beat? Dancing your hellos for the past 3 centuries, Priya nodded. It's actually quite lovely, though your hip movements could use some work. No offense. Raw Tech, who had unconsciously taken a bite of pizza, froze mid-chew. This is outrageous. Our entire diplomatic framework needs updating. Priya finished smoothly, which is exactly why I'm here. That, and to prevent certain trigger-happy individuals from starting a war because they misread an emoji in our last transmission. Zarkax bristled. That smiling face was clearly a threat. It was a winky face, Priya corrected. And it meant Ambassador Morgan was joking about turning Jupiter into a disco ball. Though technically we could do that. Our party planning committee has some wild ideas. She pulled out a tablet and began scrolling. Now, about these trade agreements. We noticed you're still using binary code for your base-level computations. Have you considered quantum neural networks? Much more efficient. We'd be happy to share the technology, though fair warning, it does have a tendency to develop a sense of humor. Share technology. Telvac leaned forward, pizza forgotten. But our laws strictly prohibit the exchange of advanced technology between council members. Yes, Priya nodded. But we're not council members, are we? We're just a primitive species who happen to figure out how to fold space-time while trying to make our internet connection faster. By the way, who wrote that law? The same species that thought interpreting dance was the height of diplomatic communication. A junior council member raised their appendage. Actually, it was the Zorkath Collective. The ones who went extinct because they refused to update their medical database format, Priya asked innocently. Fascinating. The chamber fell into an uncomfortable silence, broken only by the sound of several council members quietly enjoying their pizza. Look, Priya said, her tone gentler. We understand this is a lot to process. Humans tend to do things differently. Last week, one of our scientists discovered a new fundamental force of nature while trying to keep her coffee warm. We're still not sure how that happened. But now we have self-heating mugs that occasionally break the laws of thermodynamics. She gestured to the holoscreen, which now displayed a series of graphs and charts. These are our current technological growth trajectories. Yes, they look exponential. No, we're not entirely sure why. Our best guess is that it has something to do with our tendency to ask what if, followed by hold my beer. Hold your beer, raw text translator struggled with the phrase. An earth beverage, Priya explained. The phrase typically precedes either a brilliant scientific breakthrough or an emergency room visit. Sometimes both. We're working on that ratio. Kasvaral, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up. Ambassador Patel, what exactly are you proposing? Priya's face lit up. A cultural exchange program. We send some of our scientists to help upgrade your systems. You send some of your people to learn our methods. We get to satisfy our curiosity about alien cultures. You get to understand why letting humans get bored is a terrible idea. And if we refuse, Zarkax asked, though Kasvaral noticed he was reaching for a second slice of pizza. Then nothing changes, Priya shrugged. Except maybe the frequency of mysterious technological breakthroughs in your territory. Our scientists can get quite enthusiastic about sharing knowledge, especially when told they're not supposed to. Just last month, someone uploaded the complete works of Shakespeare to your network, translated into all known galactic languages. The AI did the translations as a hobby. Raw text color shifted to a thoughtful blue. You're saying we don't have a choice? Oh no, Priya corrected, pulling out a box of garlic bread. You absolutely have a choice. We're just suggesting that working with us might be more fun than working against us. Also, there's dessert after this. I brought tiramisu. The council chambers had been converted into what humans called a show and tell session. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood at the center, surrounded by floating holograms of Earth's scientific achievements. His casual demeanor and worn lab coat with scorch marks somehow made the presentation even more unsettling. So you see, he explained, gesturing to a complex diagram, we actually achieved faster than light travel by accident. We were trying to make a more efficient coffee maker, but Jerry and quantum mechanics sneezed during the experiment. The resulting energy surge created a localized space-time bubble that well. Long story short, we now have coffee makers that can brew your morning cup yesterday. Ra-Tech stared at the diagram, their color cycling through shades of disbelief. You discovered temporal manipulation through a beverage dispensing accident. Oh, that's nothing, Marcus waved dismissively. Wait until you hear about how we solved gravity. My daughter's pet hamster had something to do with that one. Still not quite sure how, but the little guy's really good at quantum physics now. Kasvaral, who had been furiously taking notes, dropped his datapad. Your pet animals understand quantum physics. Just the one hamster, Marcus clarified. Though my neighbor's cat might have achieved sentience last week, she's been solving complex mathematical equations, but we think she's just doing it to show off. The scientist pulled up another hologram, this one showing Earth's defense grid. Now, about our military capabilities. We tried to keep things simple, but you know how engineers get when they're caffeinated. One of them asked why our planetary shields couldn't also generate free Wi-Fi, and well, he gestured to a complicated network of energy patterns. Now we have the best internet coverage in the galaxy, and our defense grid occasionally posts memes on social media. Your defense system posts memes, Telvak looked ready to faint. Only the good ones, Marcus assured them. It has standards. Though last Tuesday it got into a pun battle with the Mars colony's AI. We had to shut down the network for an hour just to stop the dad jokes. He moved on to another display, this one showing what appeared to be a small wristwatch. This is probably our most significant breakthrough. We call it the everything device. It started as a smartwatch project but somehow gained the ability to manipulate fundamental forces of nature. The engineering team says it was an accident, but personally, I think the quantum AI we developed got bored and decided to rewrite physics. You have an AI that can rewrite physics. Ra-Tech's voice was barely a whisper. Had Marcus corrected, it decided to retire and now runs a digital art gallery, says it's more fulfilling. Though it still helps out occasionally when it's not busy critiquing modern art. Zarkax, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Why are you revealing all this to us now? Marcus's expression turned serious for the first time. Because you need to understand something fundamental about humans. All these breakthroughs, all these accidents that turned into world-changing discoveries, they happen because we never stop asking questions. We never stop pushing boundaries. Not because we want power, but because we're curious. He pulled up one final hologram, showing Earth's first crewed rocket next to their latest space vessel. In less than 300 years, we went from barely reaching our own atmosphere to casually manipulating the fabric of reality. Not because we're special, but because every time someone told us something was impossible, we took it as a challenge. The scientist grinned. Do you know what happened when our physicists were told faster than light travel was impossible? They spent a week trying to prove it was impossible, found a loophole in reality instead, and now we have ships that can skip through dimensions because they forgot they weren't supposed to. He looked around the chamber, meeting each council member's gaze. We're not showing you this to threaten you. We're showing you this because we want you to understand why threatening us was never going to work. Humans don't respond well to being told what they can't do. We tend to do it anyway, usually by accident, often while trying to do something completely different. Like discovering temporal manipulation while making coffee, Casvarral asked weakly. Exactly, Marcus beamed. Though to be fair, that coffee maker is still causing temporal anomalies. Last week it served me a cup of coffee from next Thursday. It was terrible, so now I know to avoid that blend in the future. Or is it the past? Temporal grammar is tricky. The Grand Council chamber had never seen anything quite like this. The formal seating arrangement had been abandoned in favor of what humans called a casual brainstorming session, complete with coffee, snacks, and a quantum hologram that kept rearranging itself because it found the standard 3 dimensions too limiting. So Ambassador Morgan said, sharing a knowing look with Ambassador Patel, have we moved past the whole threatening war thing? Ra-Tech, whose color had finally settled into a peaceful shade of azure, nodded. I believe we have significantly revised our position on humanity's place in the galactic community. Wonderful, Dr. Rivera exclaimed from where he was showing a group of fascinated council scientists how to make their datapads dimension hop. Though I should mention, the coffee maker from next Thursday wants me to warn you about something. Apparently there's a minor bureaucratic incident next month involving a misplaced semicolon in the trade agreement that accidentally makes cheese the universal currency. We can't have that, Priya interjected. Some of us are lactose intolerant. Casvarral, who had been compiling the official record of events, looked up from his notes. I believe we should address the formal terms of our new alliance. The traditional process requires 7 years of negotiation, followed by... Oh, we took care of that already, Ambassador Morgan interrupted cheerfully. Remember that AI that retired to run an art gallery? It got bored again and rewrote all the paperwork, made it much more efficient, also added some lovely illustrations. But the regulations Casvarral began have been updated, Priya finished. The AI was very thorough. It even included a section about proper pizza sharing protocols during diplomatic meetings. Very forward-thinking. Admiral Blackwood's hologram appeared, now wearing what appeared to be a party hat. If I may add, the cadet squad has finished upgrading your fleet's entertainment systems. They also started a galaxy-wide gaming tournament. Apparently your crews are surprisingly good at something called Mario Kart. Zarkax, who had spent the last hour trying to understand human memes, looked up. Does this mean we're officially allies now? Better Morgan smiled. We're friends. Though fair warning, that means you'll have to deal with human enthusiasm on a regular basis. We tend to get excited about, well, everything. As if to prove her point, Dr. Rivera's voice rose above the general chatter. And if you think that's cool, wait until you see what happens when we combine your hyperspace theory with our quantum coffee maker. We might accidentally create a new universe, but I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll just make sure it's properly caffeinated. Ra-Tech raised their sensory appendages. Perhaps we should establish some safety protocols. Already done, Priya assured them. We have a standard procedure for accidental universe creation. It's filed under M for mistakes we're totally going to make anyway. I have a question, Telvak ventured. If we're going to be sharing technology, how do we prevent accidents? Prevent them, Morgan laughed. Oh, you sweet summer child. We don't prevent accidents. We just make sure they're interesting ones. Speaking of which, she checked her watch, which may or may not have been manipulating reality. Dr. Rivera's hamster is about to give a lecture on 11-dimensional physics. Anyone want to attend? The council chamber erupted in a flurry of movement as various members rushed to witness this unprecedented event. Casvarel stayed behind, adding one final note to his report. Official recommendation: abandon all previous protocols regarding humanity. They will be ignored anyway, probably resulting in accidental scientific breakthroughs. Suggest creating new classification: humans approach with wonder, not caution. Warning: may accidentally improve your civilization while trying to make better hot beverages. Yes. The coffee maker from next Thursday says everything will work out fine, except for a minor incident involving a teleporting cat and the council's central database. But apparently that was going to happen anyway. As Casvarel finished his report, he noticed his datapad had started broadcasting cat videos. He decided not to mention it. After all, that was probably going to be the least strange thing to happen today. In the background, he could hear Dr. Rivera enthusiastically explaining how his daughter's hamster had just solved the universe's entropy problem while running on its exercise wheel. The council scientists were taking notes, though several of them appeared to be questioning their entire careers. "Welcome to the future, Ambassador," Morgan said, appearing beside him with a fresh cup of coffee. "It's weird, wonderful, and probably not working quite the way anyone expected. But that's humanity for you. We specialize in making the impossible possible, usually by accident, and always with style." Casvarel accepted the coffee, noting that it tasted suspiciously like victory. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a cat was probably plotting to take over the council's database, a hamster was rewriting physics, and humanity was changing the galaxy one impossible accident at a time. He couldn't wait to see what they would break next, preferably from a safe distance.
Like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep creating amazing content for you.